All right, good morning, everyone. My name is Mary Dixon, and I am the proud principal of Dawes Elementary School. We're here today to celebrate our first day of school with children. Dawes School is a neighborhood community school that just received the designation of a fine and performing arts school. So it's more important than ever that we get our students back so we can start living the mission of a fine and performing arts school. We also live the vision of making sure all of our children are educated from pre-K through 8th grade. We have 5 pre-K school programs, or preschool programs, and 1 cluster program returning to school today. More than anything else, Dawes School is a community school. We are used to having students here from 7:30 in the morning for band practice until 6 at night for culinary arts programs. So it's certainly been quiet around here, and we are so excited to bring our students back to school and have some live in-person learning happening again at Dawes School. This has been an extremely challenging time for schools and communities we serve. And while it's been difficult, our work matters most when our communities are experiencing the greatest hardships. Here at Dawes, everyone has stepped up to the challenge. After months of transforming our school by implementing new resources and procedures, we are finally here welcoming back our students who selected in-person learning, while providing high-quality education to those who are still remaining remote learners. It is a transition, but one we are prepared and excited for. After what feels like an eternity of online instruction, our families, most of whom come from low-income backgrounds, finally have the opportunity to return to the classroom. And now it is my great honor and privilege to introduce our next speaker, Mayor Lori Lightfoot.
Thank you, Principal Dixon, for that kind introduction, but also just for everything that you're doing. Even though all the students aren't here, having spent a little time with you this morning and in classrooms, it's really quite clear that this is an incredibly important school to this community, that there's a level of vibrancy that really permeates these halls and these classrooms. So I know that that is due in part to your leadership, so thank you very much. And good morning, everyone, and thank you for being here. I also want to recognize the other folks who are here with us today. Of course, CEO of Chicago Public Schools, Dr. Janice Jackson. I want to say a special thanks to Miss Maria Vasquez. Thank you so much for being here with us. And really, everybody in the Dawes family. This is an important day, not only for Dawes, but for Chicago Public Schools. From the principal to the cafeteria staff, the teachers, of course, the aides, the janitors, security, all paraprofessionals, and of course, the students and our families. When we talk about school community, this is what we mean. Everyone has a role. Every stakeholder is important in order to make a school environment safe and nurturing for our students. So I want to thank everybody here at Dawes, but across the city, who's really contributed mightily to this moment. Let me highlight some of the things that I saw here at Dawes, but I know are being replicated across the school. Clean and well-ventilated classrooms and ample space for students and staff to remain 6 feet apart. Plenty of masks, hand sanitizer stations, and other protective measures to keep everyone safe and in accordance with the latest public health guidance. And above all, excited and engaged students who are clearly thrilled to be back in the classroom and safely reunited with their teachers and classmates. Again, as I was walking through some of these pre-K classrooms, I was reminded of my daughter's experience in school and how the youngest learners are so excited to be with their classmates, to be with their teachers, and to really have this connection that really becomes something that is lifelong and influences their ability to have friendships and understand the importance of social and emotional learning I'm feeling very nostalgic having walked back into these classrooms about how important that is, I know, for my daughter, and how important that is for children and their parents and their families across the city. And although today isn't the first day of school, it is our city's first day of embarking on our path to returning to in-person learning since that learning stopped more than 300 days ago. Back then, our city was in a very different place, when every single day was another step into uncharted territory. And we were just beginning to learn what exactly COVID-19 was, how it spreads, and what its impact was going to be on all aspects of our lives. Since then, we've not only become equipped with more data and resources, but also with a vaccine and a path that points towards, hopefully, the end of this terrible crisis. We've also grown tremendously as a city by finding ways to come together, guided by the values of equity and inclusion and fairness, to address the challenges that the pandemic both created but also exacerbated underlying, long-standing fault lines in our city. Today marks a huge step forward in making sure that we are addressing those long-standing issues. And at the top of the list is educational equity and achievement issues. The quick changes and sacrifices made by CPS, our teachers, and our entire school community back then to create a remote learning model to support our students has really been incredibly incredible and also heroic during very difficult and challenging times. However, we've learned over these many months that the fact of the matter is remote learning, while it works just fine for some, it absolutely has not served all of our students equally or well. While some students have been able to continue their studies and advance their academic careers, too many others, especially in our highest need students and our highest need neighborhoods, have had the opposite experience. We all know, and it was really underscored to me today, that the best learning for our youngest learners involves social and emotional interactions with their teachers, with their students, with their staff, in an environment of support and nurturing. In-person provides the best opportunity for a holistic approach to learning for our students, and so much more. To deny these students and their parents the option, let me underscore, the option to get back into this in-person learning environment and to address some of the challenges that they have faced remotely, that would be wrong. And we need to give the option of the enhanced benefits that in-person learning brings, no question. So providing that option is entirely consistent with our values of equity and inclusion and leaving no student behind, regardless of her circumstances, her zip code, her background. We need to build this path forward, and we've started with that today. And let me be clear. I also understand and hear and see those who are concerned about returning to in-person instruction. And let me say specifically to the teachers and other staff who have expressed these concerns. I want to assure you that we have and we will continue to take every step possible to address those concerns in a way that is consistent with the public health guidance. We've started down that path really weeks ago by granting a range of accommodations for those who must opt out of in-person instruction. And we have and we will continue to listen and engage so that we can walk down this path together. That's the important part. I said this just a few days ago. This process has to be about substantive, collaborative engagement so that we are walking forward together. We may not agree on every issue, but we have to keep the lines of dialogue open, We have to come to the table in a spirit of good faith. That's what we are committed to, and we want to make sure that those opportunities exist so we can move forward together. We can focus first and foremost on our young people, our children, and what is in their best interest. It's now the middle of the school year. And if we want our children to receive everything that they rely upon from schools, from lessons to social services, meals, and in some cases, physical, speech, and occupational therapy, and much more, we have to give them access to a safe and nurturing environment in which to thrive. And the reality is that not every student has access to those kinds of resources in a remote, at-home environment. So it's up to us as elected leaders and public servants, as principals, educators, to step up, come together, and create those safe environments for students and their families. There's a lot that's been said over these last few weeks, and there's a lot that's being said today and every day about what's happening at CPS. And what that says to me is our public education system is key to our success as a city. And what I mean by that is providing the educational opportunities for our students and our young people is core to who we must be as a city. We can't get any of the other things done that are necessary, whether it's economic development, whether it's addressing the violence in our neighborhoods, the mental health and the trauma, if we don't have a strong and vibrant, healthy public school system. It is core. It is the ecosystem. It is the skeleton on which we build everything else. CPS is absolutely essential to who we are. Strengthening CPS in every way, in collaboration with the entire school community, is what we must be about. Why? Because our children depend upon it. As adults, as leaders, we must put our kids front and center first in everything that we do. And that is what has to be the only thing on the table as we are discussing important issues about today, but importantly, about the future. I want to thank the Principal Dixon and really all the principals and assistant principals across our system who have been doing yeoman's work, not just leading up to this moment, but all year round. They have been here in these buildings, making sure that our kids are getting fed, that our people who are here in the buildings are safe and healthy. Let's not forget that and them. Let me also again thank the staff who have been in these buildings all year round, particularly the cafeteria workers, the janitors, the security. They haven't been anywhere. They've been here in these schools all year round, making sure that our kids have a lifeline to the schools and a connection. I also want to thank the teachers that are working today, whether remote or in person, who are going and have been going above and beyond to make sure that our kids feel a sense of love and connection and support. Thank you for everything, teachers, that you have done every single day as well. We need you. We need you to continue our journey, our necessity, our obligation and responsibility to make sure that our kids get a safe and nurturing academic environment and that they are learning and growing as young people, as human beings. That's our obligation, and you are at the center of that necessary work. And let me thank every stakeholder in our school community who has been willing to come to the table to create sustainable and substantive solutions that work for all of our students. Again, the only issue on the table has to be what's in the best interest of our young people, our students. Because if we have that front and center, if we focus on that, all the rest will follow. Because building that safe and nurturing environment for them means creating a safe and nurturing environment for the entire school community. Thank you again, Dr. Jackson, Chief McDade, and the entire CPS executive team who have been working tirelessly over many weeks, the network chiefs. This doesn't happen without a lot of people making tremendous sacrifices, and we all owe you a debt of gratitude. I'm excited about today. As I said, I'm very nostalgic seeing these youngest kids. It reminds me so much of tender moments that I've experienced myself with my daughter and her young friends when they were very young in pre-K and elementary school. This is what we have to keep front and center. This is what we must be about. So thank you so much. Thank you for being here. And I'd love to welcome Dr. Jackson to the podium to say a few words.
Thank you, Mayor.
Thank you.
I wore the wrong earrings today with this mask. Good morning, everyone. First, I want to thank Mayor Lightfoot for her comments today and her leadership throughout this process. I would also like to echo her thoughts and sentiments to Mary Dixon, the principal here, and her entire administrative staff, as well as the network staff that have been working extremely hard in order to make this a possibility. They exemplify the professionalism and commitment that is, embodied in all of our schools across the city. So I want to thank them for showing up here today and also for their excitement. Like the mayor, I came in with a lot of excitement and anticipation, but really happy to see our students, our youngest students, some of our most vulnerable students here today learning, because they deserve a quality education. And I was even more excited to see the professionalism and commitment amongst our teachers that showed up here today. It's been 10 months since our students have been in school, and I know everyone signed up to do this work for the same exact reason, and that is to provide our kids with the quality education they deserve. I want to also thank the teachers that are working from home, as Mayor Lightfoot mentioned in her comments. They too are providing a quality education for our students. And despite all of the work that we've done over the past 10 months, we know that remote learning is not an option for all of our students. There are many students and families, 77,000 in fact, that have chosen an in-person option, and I'm excited about the possibility to offer that at this time. It is our mission in Chicago Public Schools to bring all of our students back over the course of the next few months in order to be reintegrated in the classroom with their teachers and their peers. In order to do this, CPS has been preparing since last summer. We've talked about our reopening plan at length, but I really want to remind people of all the preparation that has taken place in order to ensure the health and safety of our students and staff. We purchased air purifiers, face coverings, an abundant amount of cleaning and disinfecting supplies. We've also made significant building improvements throughout the city to ensure that all of our schools had the proper ventilation necessary. We've also studied schools across the country and right here in the city that have reopened, and all of the learnings from that research went into the reopening plan that we are executing today. We've gone above and beyond the requirements from CDC and CDPH in order to ensure that our students and staff are safe, and we are not done. In addition to the strict health protocols that we have now put in place, Chicago Public Schools is now implementing a voluntary COVID-19 surveillance testing program for school-based staff. This program launched last week and will help the district monitor the prevalence of COVID-19 among asymptomatic staff in our schools. Employees who participate in the program will be tested monthly at their schools. We will be administering rapid tests, and those findings will be available in as little as 15 minutes. Any staff member with a presumptive positive will be offered a PCR COVID-19 test at the school the same day. Rapid test results, as well as PCR results, will be quickly communicated to families and staff in the schools. Beginning today, later today, you will be able to follow and track that data on our website, cps.edu/reopening. Please note that testing is voluntary, but we strongly encourage all school-based employees to participate. While over 20% of school-based employees chose not to participate in our surveillance testing program last week, we want to continue to encourage them to do so. This is, in fact, one of the things that we agreed upon with the teachers union that needed to be in place in order to have a successful reopening to school. This is just one more step in our plan to ensure that our staff and students remain healthy and safe in our schools. Again, I want to thank the staff that returned to school today. This is incredibly important work. Thousands of students came to school today expecting to see their teachers, and we know that tens of thousands of more will be returning in the next few weeks. I know that there are some parents who are still taking a wait and see approach, and I want to assure you that we've done everything within our power to make sure that these schools are safe and that your children will be welcomed back by exceptionally talented staff here in CPS. We are doing this for our Black and Latinx students whose attendance and grades have suffered greatly because of the struggles with remote learning. We're doing this for our youngest learners who need the physical presence of an adult in order to thrive in a classroom setting, whether that's in person or learning at home. And we're doing this for many of our parents who are themselves essential workers, whose bravery throughout this pandemic we have been championing. Now it's time to provide them with an option for in-person instruction for their kids. Most importantly, we're reopening our schools because we believe it is safe to do so. We know that parents still have questions and concerns. We encourage you to reach out directly to your schools. You're going to get the best information from the principals and the teachers at your local schools. But should families have questions or concerns, I want to remind folks of the CPS hotline, which is 773-553-KIDS, KIDS, or you can use our email address, which is familyservices@cps.edu. Again, I want to thank everyone who has played a role in making today possible. We should truly be excited about what we have accomplished today, and I am looking forward to a successful rest of the school year. At this time, I would like to invite a parent to the podium to talk a little bit about the importance of in-person instruction. Please welcome Maria Vasquez, a mother of 2 pre-K students here at Dawes Elementary.
Buenos días, me llamo María Vázquez y soy una orgullosa mamá de la escuela DAS. Tengo 2 hijos en preescolar y estoy muy emocionada de que vuelvan a la escuela. Para muchos padres sé que esta no fue una decisión fácil. Elegí el aprendizaje presencial porque a pesar de todo lo que puedo hacer como madre, estos son años críticos y los niños necesitan el apoyo socioemocional y estabilidad que obtienen en el aprendizaje presencial. Creo que es importante tener una rutina y estabilidad y este modelo de aprendizaje les proporciona a mis hijos exactamente eso. Al ingresar a la puerta de la escuela esta mañana, al ver los procesos de salud como la toma de temperatura corporal y el uso de las mascarillas correctamente, han consolidado mi decisión, se están siguiendo los protocolos y siento que mis hijos están seguros aquí. La directora Dixon también ha tenido sesiones de información para responder a todas nuestras preguntas. Además, participé en el evento del distrito, como en el foro de padres la semana pasada, donde me informé sobre la importancia de que los niños en preescolar regresen a las aulas, desde una perspectiva de desarrollo de las autoridades de CPS. Todos los padres tienen que tomar su propia decisión, que funciona mejor para ellos y para sus hijos. Me siento agradecida de tener la opción del aprendizaje presencial y esta fue la decisión correcta para mí y para mis hijos. Gracias.
Good morning, my name is Maria Vasquez, and I am a proud Dawes parent. I have 2 children in pre-K, and I'm very excited to have them back in the classroom. Like many parents, I know this was not an easy decision. I chose in-person learning because despite doing everything I can as a parent, these are critical years and children need the social, emotional support and the stability that comes along with in-person learning. I believe it's important to have a routine and stability, and in-person learning provides that for my students. Walking through the doors this morning, seeing the health process like temperature checks and mask wearing solidified my decision. Protocols are being followed and I feel my children are safe. Leading up to the reopening, Principal Dixon held information sessions to answer all of our questions. Additionally, I participated in district events such as parent forums last week, where I heard about why it's important for children in pre-K and developmental perspectives from CPS officials. Every parent has the right to make their own decision that works best for them and their families. For me, I feel grateful to have the option for in-person learning, and it was the right decision for me and my family.
And at this point, happy to take your questions.
Hi, I'm Kai Martin with
Good to
NBC.
see you again.
How are you?
I'm well. Happy New Year.
Happy New Year. I hope you're feeling chatty. We have so many questions today. First, I do
There'll
want
be a
to...
limit, however.
Oh, okay. First, maybe this might be for Dr. Jackson. A lot of reporters are wondering, can we just get some numbers? Do you have early numbers district-wide?
Yeah.
And then drill it down to here at Dawes. We heard 40 students opted in for today, and then how many actually showed up today, just so we can put it with the video that we shot today.
Yeah. Well, the most current data we have is from last week on Friday, where over 71% of school-based staff returned. What we saw is a constant uptick from Monday of teachers as well as paraprofessionals returning back to schools. We should also note in that group of individuals, 29% or so, that haven't returned, there are people who are following the health protocols that have either traveled or maybe have been exposed to COVID, so they're staying home per our guidance, as well as individuals who may be applying for ADA or other accommodations. So I'm happy to report that there's a small group of individuals that are just simply resisting. Most of our teachers are following the protocol. Most of them are coming to work, number one, or following the protocols, and in some cases still working through the ADA requirements. We will have data from today later this week, both student and staff attendance data. I'm not 100% sure of the data here in the school. Do you know it? Oh, we can give it to you for your package.
So
yeah.
how many, do you know roughly how many students came to school today across the district?
No,
Rough
we don't.
estimate? You
We don't
know.
have that number
Okay.
yet. Yeah.
Okay. And then for the mayor, a lot of reporters, including myself, we noticed that you did extend the stay-at-home order for the city of Chicago. Can you square your thought process with having teachers and some students back today, and then also extending that stay-at-home order?
Yeah, I neglected earlier to mention that Dr. Allison Ardoy, our Commissioner of Public Health, is here. I'll invite her to go in. But we extended it as to make sure that it was aligned with, I think, what the state was doing. But we are making significant progress. Recall that when we put the stay-at-home advisory in place, we were seeing a really troubling increase in cases, percent positivity. Since November, when it peaked, we have been coming back down, even through Thanksgiving and then Christmas and New Year's. So we are making steady progress overall. So the advisory is really about making sure that we're doing everything that we can to give people the best information. And recall that from the very beginning, schools were exempted from the stay-at-home advisory. Dr. Arwood, I don't know if you want to add anything to that.
I think I would just underscore that last point, that if you look at the language of that stay-at-home advisory, it's about essential. We specifically say people who are going to work, who are going to school, or who are performing other essential activities should continue to do those. But if there are things that are not essential, we've asked people to limit that. And broadly, we are making very good progress here in Chicago. We continue to be reassured by the way that the data is going. Certainly, we're still following a little bit after the holidays, but by and large, we are in a much, much better place than we were. And in fact, we're doing much better than the majority of the country.
So while I have you here, Doctor, so we're in Tier 3 as far as our mitigations. What is your thought about when we can go back to Tier 2? What are you seeing? Obviously, we had the holidays, and that 2-week period is kind of coming to an end. What specific numbers will you be looking at? Is it that positivity rate to go to Tier 2?
So I would note that this is state mitigation that is in place at this point, and it is in place all over the state, as you're aware. And that there's a few factors that are included in that at the state level. One is being under a 12% positivity, which we are here in Chicago, and which most of the state is at this point. And then there are some other metrics related to hospital capacity capacity and ensuring that hospital numbers are downtrending. Our hospital numbers look good here in Chicago. We are under that 12% positivity. Again, the governor and the state have signaled they want to watch sort of the stabilization after New Year's, which I'm in agreement with. And I do want people to understand, though, that the mitigation comes in steps. And so these tiered mitigations that have been put in place at the next level, if we're able to back out of that, that doesn't yet bring us to indoor dining, for example. It doesn't yet completely open things up. It is a stepwise progression back. So I am feeling optimistic about where we are as a city and as a state. And some of the conversation about that stay-at-home order is to make sure that we're being as consistent as possible across the state. We're heading the right way, but we are still asking people, again, outside of work, school, and things they need to be doing, to be, limiting opportunities for COVID spread. Schools have not been shown to be a source of COVID spread for the community.
Okay, and then perhaps you want to stay up here for this, but a lot of teachers, a lot of teachers would like to be vaccinated for COVID-19. They're coming here, they're essential workers under the stay-at-home advisory. Where are they in line? When can they look to get this vaccine?
Yeah, absolutely. And, we obviously, you heard the mayor talk about how central education is to the health and functioning of a city. And within phase 1B, which is the phase, we're not there yet, we're still working on our healthcare workers, we've still got tens of thousands of outpatient healthcare workers. As we start to move forward into 1B, just like at the state level, we both open up vaccine to older Chicagoans, and we start working on some very specific frontline essential workers. And that does include teachers, but also other school staff, daycare staff. It's a large lift. There's about 150,000 people who work in that educational category just in Chicago, and there's some other settings that we're working through. I do, and one other, just to put a specific point on that, when we're talking about healthcare workers right now, that does include healthcare workers based in schools. So we have nurses, for example, who work in schools across this city for whom vaccination is available and is being scheduled right now. And I expect that over the next few months, we will be very much working to get all of the adults who work in school settings vaccinated. So not just yet, but on the horizon.
A couple of months?
Yes, I think we'll see. A lot depends on how quickly vaccine comes to us. Okay. We get about 32,000 first doses of vaccine a week right now. You think about how many people there are over 65, 370,000. How many essential workers? Hundreds of thousands, 150,000 just in education. There is going to have to be some patience here, but I would expect that we will likely be beginning, in the sort of February to March timeframe, and then we'll continue to vaccinate through, over these next few months. Essential workers, frontline, we want to get vaccinated, and we want to make sure, though, that we are having a safe school environment, which, again, I have every confidence in here, as we've seen in our private and parochial schools across Chicago to date. Really pleased that we're moving ahead with in-person education, especially for the kids who need it most today.
One more on education, then maybe to some political stuff.
Do you want me or do you want
I think I want you. Okay. So this question is from the Tribune. This question is from the Trib. For some of the special needs students where wearing a mask is physically hard for them, and perhaps they might be sharing a bus with kids who are wearing a mask, the Trib reporter is wondering, how are you communicating with parents so that, is there a notification like, hey, there's some kids who might not be masked up for different reasons? And just how are you communicating that with some of your cluster programs?
Yeah, I think all of that will be done on an individual basis. There are students who, have difficulty with masks, who pull them down, but our staff has been trained to address those issues. Also, in some cases, additional PPE. I know teachers and paras who have to get very close to students will have the face shields in addition to masks. And so, again, we're doing this on a one-on-one basis, depending on the schools and the individual needs of the students. I would also say many of the parents are also stepping stepping up and providing additional resources as well, should they think that that's necessary for their kids to be safe. And again, there are also parents who are opting to keep their children home because of those fears and concerns. But, you know, as we've said already here today, I feel confident. People worried about the younger children in the mask, and what I've always told them is that students are oftentimes more flexible and adaptive than adults, and so I feel confident that our children will be able to comply. We've seen that in other school settings here in Chicago and across the country that have reopened. Yeah.
All right, and Mayor, Jesse from Channel 7.
Before you ask the next
yeah.
question, I just want to put a finer point on the vaccine question.
Okay.
And I've been beating this drum now for some time. We need more vaccine. Absolutely, we need to get teachers and other essential workers vaccinated and make that available to them as quickly as possible. But I'm discouraged by the fact that we are getting less first doses now than we had at the beginning. That has to change around completely. We need to be getting many more first doses from the federal government. And we have been talking, of course, with the incoming Biden-Harris administration, but we still need to get more vaccine as quickly as possible. While there's vaccine hesitancy in some quarters, there are a number of folks who said, Mayor, when can I get my vaccine? We want to accommodate everyone who wants it and needs it, but we've got to get more vaccine from the federal government, period. That is going to be a significant impediment for us to be able to move forward if we don't get more first doses more quickly than what we're seeing thus far.
All right, thank you. This is from Jesse with Channel 7. He says CTU is telling him that it proposed using only teachers who volunteer to go back into the classroom because there's only a small portion of students who opted for the in-person learning right now. The union claims your team shot down this proposal to have volunteer
I don't think
teachers.
I understood well, if you understood, I didn't understand the question. Go ahead.
Okay.
There are questions about staff returning and comparing that to student enrollment. And I think what people have to understand is that this is the first step in a process to bring everyone back. So our pre-K staff, our cluster staff, and those adults that support those programs are returning to work. But we aren't trying to create a situation where some people work and some people don't. We're starting in tranches. We started with this group, but the expectation is that over the course of the next couple of months, everyone is going to return to in-person work and instruction.
Okay, thank you.
I'm glad you understood the question.
So a couple more political questions. Mayor, how do you feel about the Chicago Police Union FOP president's recent remarks and apology? Some aldermen are asking for some sort of letter. What would that do, or a resolution in council against Catanzara's, I guess, reign? So what's your feeling about his situation right now with the FOP and what needs to be done from the city's point of view?
Well, there's a lot of layers to the question that you just asked. I think the FOP president's recent comments, and I think what really has ignited this latest issue, is his really tone-deaf comments about what happened last week in our nation's capital. You know, I have to say that I personally felt deeply affected by seeing those vigilantes and domestic terrorists laying siege to our nation's capital. I was very privileged as a young person right out of college to work in our nation's capital. I worked on Capitol Hill. I worked for a member of Congress. I walked those halls. And I walked those halls with incredible reverence for what that building represents, not only for us as Americans, but what it represents as really the citadel of democracy, the people's house. And the fact that there was a joint session of Congress that was there, fulfilling its constitutional obligation, and that the current president, in what I think is a criminal act, incited insurrection against a core part of our democracy and attacked the legislative branch. and you watch the video from that siege, I still feel despair and fear about what happened. And I think people of goodwill, with their eyes wide open, saw that for what it was, which is an incredible attack on our democracy, an undermining of who we are as a nation. No one should take that lightly. This was not just about people exercising their frustration. People came there armed. When I see these individuals with zip ties, what were they doing with that? Why was that necessary? Came with arms, guns, explosives, and other things. This wasn't people merely exercising their First Amendment rights. These are domestic terrorists who came to take hostages and upend a constitutional exercise by the legislative branch. So the fact that he waved that off as nothing says a lot about the character of him. But that's not the only thing that he has done. He has a long history of saying and doing things that are anti-democratic, small d democratic. This isn't about partisanship. This is about, do you, as a sworn member of law enforcement, where you swore an oath to uphold the U.S. and the Illinois Constitution, do you actually believe in your oath? He has said and done too many things over too long a period of time, which clearly underscore the fact that he doesn't believe in the rule of law, that he doesn't respect the U.S. Constitution, that he doesn't respect the Illinois Constitution. So I absolutely understand the outrage that has been expressed in a number of quarters. And let me just say this, the fact that the national FOP really came down hard on him in an unprecedented statement against a sitting FOP president, that tells you how egregious his conduct and his behavior is. His non-apology, I'm sorry if I offended someone. If I offended someone, you did, sir. You offended our democracy.
Let's do two more. Okay. We'll stick with some politics here. Bill from WLSAM wants to know, do you think President Trump should be removed from office early, and if so, by which method?
What I think is that there has to be something in place to make sure that the president does not commit any more criminal acts, that he does not engage in acts of insurrection, and he does not engage in intemperate actions that put our democracy, our nation, and our world at risk. That's what I think. You know, I worry a little bit about impeachment simply because the time frame, you know, McConnell, who still has a voice, says that he won't take anything up until the 19th, which is the day before Biden's swearing in and inauguration. We need to turn the page from this horrible, hideous chapter in our nation's history. We need to do that. We need to start a new administration with a new set of valuables and principles and reconnect with each other as Americans, as residents of this great country. I worry about the potential for distraction. I think the fear that has been expressed by Speaker Pelosi and others is real. This is a man who is dangerous, who is unhinged, and clearly has demonstrated he cares not for anything other than himself and his ideas about his legacy. I'm worried about the fact that he could order a nuclear strike. I'm worried about the fact that he could order troops into harm's way. And I think we all have to ask the question, can we, in the next 9 days, have assurances that he cannot act in a way that is going to put American lives at risk? I don't know the answer to those questions, but I think that is the core issue and concern that has to be on the table, and whatever means we need to make sure that that doesn't happen, we should. Obviously, if he were to resign early, I think would be a big sigh of relief for everyone. I don't think that that's going to happen. I don't think a process that isn't going to reach conclusion before the end of his term is really going to have any impact on him. This is a man who doesn't care, who is impervious to the norms that keep and accountability measures that keep most elected officials in check. He doesn't care about any of those things. So it is concerning to me who he is, what he's done, and what he's potentially capable of. And we've got to have insurances from the highest levels of government, and particularly for Vice President Pence, that he is not going to allow that to happen. He is not going to allow Donald Trump to burn down every bridge on his way out of office. That is the thing that I'm most concerned about.
All right, so there's some anecdotal information coming into different reporters around the city. Some teachers afraid they're going to be locked out of their Google account here with CPS if they teach from home and they were supposed to be in school. Teachers who have asked for accommodations, maybe related to pre-existing conditions. Some have told Michelle Gallardo from Channel 7 that they're being denied and forced back into the classroom. Do you have any numbers on how many teachers were supposed to be here today, how many actually showed up, and then how you're going to treat individual grievances as they come in, just to wrap it up?
The first three questions I think you asked earlier, which is Dr. I understand, but Dr. Jackson, I think, has said, and CPS is committed to making sure that we get information out later this week about teacher attendance, really staff, in-person school attendance, and particularly with the students. I'll let Dr. Jackson take the last part of the question.
Thanks.
Go ahead, Doctor.
You know, the first thing I want to say is we need to focus on the fact that majority of our teachers are doing exactly what they're supposed to be doing, and we are incredibly thankful and grateful to them for their professionalism and, more importantly, their commitment to children. That should be the focus today. As I stated earlier, we had the best data from Friday. We will be sharing our data from today and the first few days of school later this week. But the purpose right now and the focus for me today is not on any resistance, but on making sure we can educate our kids. And we started school today successfully. We know that we have our classes covered. We had contingency plans in place if that didn't occur. Any teacher who will be denied access to their Google Suite or pay, they have had several conversations and warnings and reminders and opportunities to explain why they aren't at work last week. We've gone above and beyond. Anyone who still has a pending accommodation, we're working through that. That's a separate situation. But we are not forcing anyone to do anything except honor the contract that teachers fought hard for. They took a strike for the contract that we are asking them to honor. And what that says is that they must educate our students where we ask them to do that, and we are moving towards in-person instruction, starting with the group that we started with today. So I think the important message here today, what I really want to come across and what I want parents to know is that we are ready and prepared to educate their children in class, and that look beyond the noise and understand that majority of our teachers, all of our administrators, the entire central office is ready and ready to welcome their children back into our schools. So, that's it.
Did you have 39 at Dawes today? Is that what you said, Principal? 39 preschoolers? Just a lot of...
I don't know the exact number.
You don't? Okay.